Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you're connecting from. This is Ira Feldman. I'm the tinyML Foundation Managing Director, and I welcome you to today's Pedestrian Detection Hackathon Kickoff. Before we start, we'd like to thank all of our strategic partners who make our activities possible and make them free of charge to everybody to attend virtually. So I'd like to thank them all. We'll thank them in detail at the end. And a reminder about our upcoming tinyML Europe, Middle East, and Africa event, the tinyML EMEA Innovation Forum, will take place June 26th to 28th this year in Amsterdam. The full program and agenda is posted on our website. We have sponsorship still available, and please register soon if you're going to join us. We look forward to seeing everybody in Amsterdam. Today, we're going to review the problem statement and talk about the operating environment and desired classifications, along with light and weather conditions that we'd love to have solutions for. And then we'll talk about the judges and the judging criteria, the prizes, resources, scheduling, milestone, and checkpoints, and then talk about the contest platform, all to give you details to start on this really exciting hackathon for pedestrian detection. Let me next turn this over to Jesse from the city of San Jose, who will talk about the challenge.
Thank you, Ira. My name is Jesse Minsroth, and I'm joining from the San Jose, California Department of Transportation. So for those of you who don't know San Jose, we're in the Bay Area in Northern California near San Francisco. And I think we're going to jump back up a few slides if I can find this correctly, or we're just trying to get this. Great, if you could do that. Thank you, Ira. So a little bit about Vision Zero. It is an international initiative, but widely adapted in the United States since about 2014. And so for over 40 US cities have adopted Vision Zero goals to reduce traffic fatalities and severe injuries. And in the last year or two, there's been even more growth to a lot more of the country because the federal government introduced what's called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law in 2021, which created in 2022 a new roadway safety grant program that is giving out about $1 billion per year, which has made the private sector very interested to see what they can contribute to this growing area. And just, you know, our team is joining here. So today I'm joined by Ho, who will speak after me to tell you more about the operating conditions. So Ira, oh, good, I got it to work. Great. So the problem statement. So traffic fatalities involving people walking, and in case you don't know this term, in English, pedestrians is the same thing as people walking. Pedestrian fatalities have hit the highest level in 30 years, says the graphic on the right, and the growth has been particularly since the year 2009. So devices to improve pedestrian detection that are usable both in day and night, placed both at intersections and between them, could greatly help this issue. Some challenges to think about. So I've included some images on the side here. These are Google Maps images of Street View, and they're not of the locations that we're necessarily focused on, but I wanted to illustrate some of the issues is that people walking are really small in the image. And so they can be hard to see. And in this challenge, we'll want you to differentiate people walking from people biking and rolling, for example. So those are some of the challenges, is that they're hard to see and they're hard to differentiate sometimes, particularly in low lighting conditions at night. In addition, we'd like you to focus not just on the crosswalk area, but also the areas around it. So the peripheral areas of the crosswalk. People often do not cross in the crosswalk. Sometimes they cross near the crosswalk. So we want you to be able to see those places too. And we'll give you some example locations on the next slides, but if you are unable to visit them, which is totally reasonable, it would be fine to find some other places that are like them in near where you live, just so you can observe people to see what it's like for your entry to observe people as well. So we're using a major intersection as one of the example locations. And the reason that this one was selected is because in Vision Zero, working for Vision Zero City, we're very data oriented. And this particular intersection in our most recent multi-year study has the most fatal and severe injuries in the city. And so we're, interested, one, to analyze what those locations are, and then two, through the various types of work we do to try and make locations like this safer. And so this particular intersection has 8 fatal and severe injuries in the last 5 years of data, and that 5-year period is 2017 to 2021. Of those 8, 6 of them are people walking and biking. So that's why we've selected this one. But to tell you more about this location, in case you're not familiar with it, it's very wide. So I've used Google Maps to measure the distance from the northwest corner to the southwest corner, which is shown as 145 feet or 44 meters. And to think of it in terms of lanes, it is about 10 lanes wide. Now, this is, you can count them. There's 3 going through in each direction, so that totals 6 in both directions. And there's 2 lanes that are turning left on each side. There's also, as you get to the intersection, there's an additional right lane, making a right on each side. There is also a bike lane on each side of McKee Road, which is the wider road. So we want to give you those conditions. In terms of the speed limit, there's a posted speed limit of 35 miles per hour on that street, and that's 55 kilometers an hour. In terms of what the land uses are around here, there is strip mall retail. There are bus stops that have 3 bus lines. There are the bike lanes. There are a lot of people turning here. And the other thing to know is this is about a block from a highway on and off ramp, and also a major regional hospital. So our other location, which is, sorry, I went too far, is a location between intersections. This is another location that's selected based on data. And so this intersection, well, it's actually not really an intersection. We're really focused on the creek. So Coyote Creek runs between La Regione Avenue, which is just a kind of minor residential street, and it does not have a signal on Tully. And then to the east of there is a signal at a street called Galveston. And the major sort of obvious attraction here is the library, which is next to the intersection at Galveston. But the less obvious attraction is the Coyote Creek that runs under Tully Road. And what we're finding at this intersection, or actually at this non-intersection, is that people are crossing along the path of the creek, and they're doing it at night. And so we find over the multi-year period here that we've had 6 fatal and severe injuries, and of the 6, 4 of them are bike or pedestrian. And so this street is a little bit narrower. It's 100 feet wide. It has a similar posted speed limit. And this particular location that we're interested in is 630 feet from the closest signal, which is about 192 meters, or 370 feet from the closest intersection that's not signalized. The way that our data works is that we tie injuries to the closest intersection, which is why we think of it as La Regione, but it's actually a location that's not really next to an intersection. So we're happy to tell you more about these places. Ho is going to follow up on the next few slides, and Ho also has a live camera for a nearby intersection for Tully Road, so you'll be able to see what it looks like live. So I believe I'm done, and we'll pass it to Ho.
Perfect. All right. So like I said, my name is Hoen. I am the ITS manager in charge of the intelligent transportation systems infrastructure out in the field that Department of Transportation manages. So pretty much every infrastructure from streetlight to traffic signals to conduits and fiber, things like that. I'm in charge of that. So I just want to present really quickly the technical requirements. It's envisioned that whatever is designed should be installed on a streetlight pole. That is the most obvious asset that we have pretty much regularly everywhere throughout the city, spaced every 200 to 500 feet. So the idea is to have a device that would be installed on a streetlight pole, and on that pole, the device should be weatherized, rugged, and here in San Jose, we don't really have cold weather, but it can get fairly hot. Uh, I would say, well, the hottest it will get is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, but inside the enclosure, we can easily see the temperature go up to about 120, 130 degrees Fahrenheit. So it is operational. So we need it to be operational up to 65 degrees Celsius. Like I said, it needs to be pole mounted. Our typical streetlight pole is about 30 feet tall. So you could install such a device between 15 to 30 feet. You don't want to be too low in case it gets vandalized. So 15 would be the lowest height that it should be installed. In terms of angle and field of view, ideally we like to capture a pedestrian or a bicyclist crossing the entire road from curb to curb. The typical road that I have shown here is 70 feet wide. It's not as wide as the intersection that the two intersections that Jesse talked about. Because through experience, at least here in San Jose, we know that most systems are not capable of reaching that far. So in order to make this challenge practical, we can put a limit of around 70 feet for the width of the road, and up to 4 lanes of travel. On the streetlight pole, in terms of the ambient lighting, obviously, daylight, I'm not concerned about that. But during nighttime, the streetlights will go on, and the actual light fixtures themselves, they are LED, and they are rated to be 3,300 lumens. In terms of power, so most of our streetlights are powered either at 120 volts or 240 volts. The idea is that, yes, we do have power here, but we also want a device that to draw as little power as possible. Most of our streetlights are on an unmetered power plan, meaning it's a flat rate. So, flat rate plans have a certain cap in terms of how much power you can draw from the streetlights. So we don't want such a device to draw so much power that we have to go into a metered plan. Okay. Communicate over the internet. As far as communication is concerned, the city does have city-owned communication system, either through Ethernet or Wi-Fi. But the system could be managed by a central system. It could be cloud-based. So obviously, it needs to connect to the internet. So it can also connect via cellular as well. We have no real preference for that. And also, it's also envisioned that such a device can be expanded to trigger other peripherals. So in other words, if we have the ability to send a relay contact to another device to, say, enable a sign, right? It's envisioned that you would use such a device to detect the presence of pedestrians and bicyclists at night, and then when it sees a pedestrian or bicyclist, it would then trigger a nearby sign to eliminate some kind of a text or something. So it'd be nice to have that additional capability to do to provide a relay contact. Okay. Can you go on to the next? Right, perfect. In terms of what we are detecting, so we like to detect in class pedestrians and bicyclists. The important thing is to do it at an accuracy where you can accurately count the pedestrians. and bicyclists. We need to tell the difference between the two. Through experience, devices will often confuse between pedestrians and bicyclists because far away they look very similar. So the challenge here is to be able to differentiate between pedestrians and bicyclists, and be able to class number one, obviously, and to detect and count with at least 95% accuracy. So that's our kind of internal threshold. And then also as a bonus, if you're able to, class between an adult or a child, in terms of, rolling, it'd be nice if we can see if it's a wheelchair, a person in a wheelchair or someone using a scooter. Next slide. Okay, so I kind of briefly talked earlier about the weather conditions and light conditions. So obviously, we want this system to work during the daytime well. We know that most systems like this tend to work pretty well during the daytime, but at nighttime though, there's a big challenge. First of all, you don't have the lighting condition available for nighttime operation. So that's the reason why we think that it's probably best to have these kind of devices installed on the streetlight pole where lighting is provided. And with nighttime condition, you just can't you aren't able to see very far with your devices either. Most obviously with optical devices, you can't see them that far. But there's other technologies available, infrared radar and things like that can probably work better. But the challenge here is to do detection well, both daytime and nighttime, and achieve 95% accuracy. The other challenge that we see with, at least with typical optical-based system, is sunrise and sunset. You have a lot of glare during these two specific times of the day, times of the day, and with glare, it's going to be very difficult. So I guess it's important to position the camera at a certain angle so that you can avoid the horizon. That's our experience, but I think that's pretty much obvious to some people here. Now in San Jose, we don't have snow, but we do have a lot of rain and fog. So we do want to make sure that the system works fairly well during these two weather conditions, rain and fog. Obviously, it should work, on a clear day, but rain and fog would be some additional challenges that we want to face.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ravi Sivalingam. Talk about the judges and judging criteria. So we have Kwabina from OpenMV, Yu from Sony, Jesse and Ho from the City of San Jose, and myself, I'm from Qualcomm R&D, and Dave from Edge Impulse. We're the judges. The judging criteria with the formal point system, which will be published by the end of next month. The judging criteria includes details such as the percentage of pedestrians or classification of the people that are correctly identified and how well it performs under different lighting and weather conditions. There will be a penalty of sorts for false negatives and also for false positives. We're really looking for the flexibility on installation locations, right? So it needs to work at an intersection, it needs to work at a non-intersection, and whether it needs to be mounted on a 15-foot height or a 30-foot height, how versatile or flexible the setup is would really contribute to the judging criteria. Also, there's a sliding scale based on the cost, which includes the BOM cost, so the bill of materials for the equipment, and also the installation and maintenance. Do we have to periodically go in and change a battery or change something else or clean up the lens? All those things really come into play here. Also, the response time plays a big factor. The latency with which you can predict the pedestrian count. If you send the pedestrian count 10 minutes after the pedestrians go by, that's not really immediately helpful for live response. So these are all the judging criteria. As I mentioned, the point system will be published by the end of next month. So prizes, we have the first prize with the dollar amount of $3,000. Second prize is $2,000 and third prize is $1,000, all in US dollars. Also, we have special awards, including the best use of Edge Impulse, $1,000, And there are a few other awards that will be announced in the upcoming days. For resources, we will have development kits available for purchase through these different vendors. Sony, and they will also have webinars. Sony on May 3rd at 8 a.m. Pacific will be presenting their Atrios Intelligent Vision System, and Infineon on May 10th at 8 a.m. Pacific time will be talking about their Sensive 60 gigahertz radar sensor. Also, there will be office hours scheduled where we can ask the experts in this domain questions. The schedules for the office hours will be announced soon. So for the calendar here, in May, we have these various resource webinars to talk about the different platforms and potential applications. Also, the optional checkpoints include the proposal date, which is May 19th, the dataset date, June 16th, for the model, July 14th, and for the device, August 18th. September 15th is the actual contest deadline. And on October 3rd, we will shortlist presentations and winners. Other tie-in events will be updated shortly. The contest platform is in the link provided here. This is the AI for Good tinyML challenge under the ITU events page. Please, the slides will be posted and the link can be accessed from there. If you have any questions about this challenge, you can log on to our tinyML forums at the link provided here, and you can ask your questions to the experts or also discuss with other participants and so on. If you have any general inquiries, you can reach out to Rosina at tinyml.org.
Thank you, Ravi. We'll go to questions and answers. So let's please use the Q&A tool, and let's try to answer as many of these as we can. Or actually, before we do that, Ho, do you want to just show the one intersection?
Here's the intersection of Tully and Lucretia, which is actually about, I would say, I don't know, 2,000 yards or so, 1,000 yards, 2,000 yards from the creek, but about 1,000 yards from the, I'm sorry, take that back, 100 yards, not 1,000, 100 yards from the library and 200 yards from the creek, just east of the library and the creek. So this is Tully and Lucretia. If you look that way, the library is over here. The creek is just beyond the view right here, somewhere in there. So as you can see here, this gives you an idea of the width of the road that Jesse was talking about. This is the smaller one of the two intersections. So as you can see here, it has three through lanes, which is typical, of these large thoroughfares. So it's about 10 to 12 feet too wide for each lane. And that's for this one. The other intersection, which is the larger intersection, and forgive me, the video is not too clear, but this is a larger intersection, and this is pointing, this is at the intersection itself, McKee and Jackson. This is pointing at the east leg of the intersection, and it's about, like Jesse says, it's about 10 lanes wide total. So I think the idea is that there's a lot of jaywalk going on here, and unfortunately, I can't really show you more because I don't have the ability to zoom out. But this is just a typical intersection, and this is the type of volume this is during the commute hour here in San Jose. So this is the typical volume. It doesn't get this bad during the day though. So
thanks for the videos, Ho. But yeah, I guess basically these are very wide roads, and you're seeing them now and they have a lot of cars on them because it's commute time, but some of the conditions we're interested in are also at nighttime when they don't have many vehicles on them. And also you can see here that you see a person walking on the sidewalk in the distance. People walking are small visually in the scheme of these roadways. So that is the challenge. Great.
Okay, so let's dive into some of the Q&A. And I'll just, so as you have questions, please ask. Okay, so and whoever on the panel wants to answer, please let me know. Let's take the first one. Is the is the challenge the vehicle drivers can't see the pedestrians, or is it the other way around? The pedestrians can't see the moving vehicles. Does anybody want to?
Yeah,
Do we have data?
I'm happy to just talk about it in general. I think that visibility of each other is one of the big issues in roadway safety. And also, these are big, wide roads. One of the biggest, I guess this is a little bit less about the challenge and a little bit more about the way people drive. But when you drive on a street that's physically very narrow, it's hard to speed. When you drive on a road that's physically quite wide, it's quite easy to speed. And so these are roads that are built for cars, a lot of cars, to drive relatively quickly. And, they were not necessarily designed as places that would have a lot of people crossing them. But the way that cities have developed in the last several decades is that a lot of streets like this have been built, and so, like the suburban edge of cities have grown to look like this. And as retail and offices and multifamily housing have been built on the sides of roads that look like this, and bus services come in, they've become more and more urban. And so there's more and more people walking in locations like this. So that's the general issue. It's that, the characteristic here is that it's a challenging pedestrian environment, but pedestrians are there. So I think that's a general answer to the first question.
Okay, and then the next question is about do these roads have pedestrian crossing buttons? But Jesse, you already talked about the issues people don't cross at the crosswalk. Right? I mean,
well, a lot of people do cross at the crosswalk, and a lot of people do use the pedestrian button. But I think that for our fatal and severe injuries, some of the issues are that there are not signalized crosswalks everywhere. And it's actually an interesting thing to know that signalized crosswalks as on a very wide road are very expensive to build. And that's part of the reason that cities can't afford to put them everywhere. And that's one of the challenges of working in the public sector. But there's some locations on streets like this where it's quite a distance to the next crosswalk. And so sometimes people will not go super far out of their way in order to cross the street.
Okay. Technical question. If you know how, what is the color temperature of the LED street lighting bulbs? I mean, is there a spec for that or?
There is a spec for that, and unfortunately I don't have that, and I don't know that information off the top of my head.
Okay, so Mark, if you ask that in the forums, hopefully we can point you to some resource information so that if that helps on the sensing. Okay. Timothy asked, are we going to provide a data set? The answer is no, because you might want to use different sensing technology. Sony is talking about vision, Infineon will be talking about radar. Maybe your solution is a combination of the two. So one data set would not work for everyone. So we just would suggest you collect enough of a data set to do some testing and training, around where you are at a typical intersection that's close to what we're describing. Okay.
If I may add on to that, Ira, there are public data sets available for human detection or pedestrian detection, especially related to transportation use cases. So folks can use that, and feel free to discuss on the forums about any data sets you may find that if you want to share with the rest of the community.
Yeah. Good. Okay. This one is, does the city of San Jose provide ability to test on streets? For example, mounting on streetlight poles, how to schedule these?
Yeah, I can answer that, Ira. I think the best answer I can say is maybe. I would definitely I'd definitely like to see the actual devices eventually installed on our streetlights to see them working in real life. But that would require some additional steps. Working with our city manager's office to get an agreement in place. I think the organization has a very good relationship with the city manager's office. If you guys want to reach out and make that additional step, we can possibly sign an agreement to have these participants have their devices installed.
And I think, it would be great at the end after the contest is over to try to field some of the finalists. I mean, but during the development stage, it's probably resource constrained, but if we can make it happen, we will.
Yeah.
Okay. In terms of the next question is about development software. I believe that Edge Impulse, among other platforms, are making versions available for use during the contest. So they will provide more information on that, Rob, but do check back on us on that.
Actually, on the website, it does say that Edge Impulse provides a free license for Hackathon participants. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Question about the proposal. If you go to the contest website, it does list out what a proposal should contain. So there'll be more information on that. Okay, in terms of which two edge devices, no, both Sony and Infineon will be making dev kits available. But you can use whatever hardware you wish to use, so it's not constrained to just the dev kits. These are sponsors who are providing both technical resources and dev kits, and they'll be explaining more during their webinar about the capabilities and how to obtain one. But you can use any hardware you want. Okay. Sorry if you're in a location that is difficult to participate, but thank you very much for your interest, and maybe you can team with some of the teams working on it and maybe help provide data or help them with testing.
Just a quick thought is that if you're in a different country and you want to use a location that looks like these locations, is fine. Like personally, I've been to Kenya and I've seen streets that are similar in Nairobi. So, if you want to use a location in your country that looks similar to this, I think it would be fine.
Right. So this is maybe a more technical question, but the question is asked, why can't existing CCTV be used for pedestrian monitoring?
A lot of reasons. Existing CCTV cameras are, bulky and heavy, and they're not the most portable piece of device to install. The idea is to have a device that's easy to install and relocate if we have to. CCTVs are permanent structures. A lot of times, we have needs to have bike and pet detection on a last minute notice, right? To do surveillance, things like that. So CCTVs, like I said, first of all, they draw a lot of power. Would definitely, it won't be on an unmetered plan if we install it on a street light pole, especially when you have a lot of them. Yes, that's probably the best answer right now.
Right. Well, and the other issue, as you were talking when we're repairing, is you don't have usually full coverage of the intersection. You might only have it facing one direction. It just depends on how it's put in. So it doesn't have as much visibility as may be needed to an intersection. So, okay. Yes. Chris's question was already answered, but yes, you can use any type of edge hardware while designing a solution. What's the minimum size of the pedestrian the computer vision model needs to detect reliably?
So I can comment about that. The minimum size depends on the camera resolution and the models, for example, that you're using for processing, right? So you can use the sample distances, as Ho mentioned, that I've mentioned in the slides. I think like 4 lanes or 70 feet, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes.
So you can use that to calculate, and based on the 15 feet to 30 feet height, you can use that to calculate what a typical pedestrian size would be. You can specify the minimum size in your submission, and that will kind of contribute to the judging criteria as well. If you can't detect people further away in the intersection, or if you can't detect small children, ideally we would like to, but children are much shorter than adults who average about 5.5 to 6 feet. So it varies depending on your implementation. There's no hard minimum size, at least for the purposes of this hackathon. Jesse or Ho, if you'd like to comment more for the practicalities of it.
Jesse, I would think that you would have some comment on the typical.
I don't know. No, not. I mean, like on the size of the person, not really. I think that if you have a, like I could, just whatever the size of a person is, is fine. I guess Ho, you may have some experience with the likelihood of getting a high percentage of correct count there, but I don't know if that's more related to the speed the person's moving as opposed to how big they are.
Yeah, but I think the question, the person who's trying to make the question here is trying to say, do we have to detect a child crossing the street, versus a typical adult? Would we? I mean, I would think for practical purposes, I think detecting a typical adult would be fine, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think at a certain age, small children are usually accompanied by adults. I mean, not always the case, but until they're probably maybe in 2nd or 3rd grade, they might not be going to school alone. So, I mean, it's usually if they're holding the hand of an adult or under the supervision of an adult, if you find the adult, you're going to protect the child. So,
Right.
Okay. This question is this hackathon open to high school students? Yes. And local San Jose high school juniors, fantastic. So do specifically reach out to us, and maybe we can help with some additional coaching or mentoring, because I think this would be a great program. And if you're local, certainly we have plenty of experts in the area. So
yeah,
yes,
I think there's an unfair advantage there, though.
I think I'd rather give them the advantage, but I'll leave it up to the judges.
I have one other question or clarification that I want to bring up is we're talking about detecting and classifying the pedestrians and bicyclists and so on, right? We are not considering tracking across image frames. It's just for each frame in the video, you want to accurately count how many people are bicyclists there are. Is that right, Jesse or Paul?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just moreover, if they're present, I think we're asking people to, particularly in the case of the non-intersection, we're asking people to create the device that can detect when people are present in a location where drivers are not expecting to see them. And so there's just a lot of benefit that can come from that, because if we have devices that can tell a driver that people are present and crossing or about to cross, there's a lot of things that we can do present or future to alert them to slow down in a place that they are not really preparing to look for them.
Exactly. And I think that's something that we kind of didn't really stress, is that we're not looking at any particular application at the moment, but it starts with accurate detection. And that's a challenge that we're seeing in our industry right now, is to be able to first accurately detect pedestrians and bicyclists. And from there, we can develop applications, right? But right now, we just want to start with detection and classification.
Is it really that crucial to actually count the number of pedestrians or bicycle riders? Because I mean, I would think if you want to light up a sign, you would do it from 1 and above, right?
Sure. Counting would be considered a very simple application coming out of this technology, right? But it's also a very one of the most important metrics when it comes to planning. Okay, whenever we plan for various activities, we want to know how many pedestrians out there, right? And the current technology that we see right now can only achieve about 80% accuracy when it comes to pedestrian counts. So we'd like to see that number higher.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. There's a question about specifying the problem further. We don't want to over-specify it, but certainly we can have questions asked in the discussion forum. That we're giving everybody a wide range of latitude, so we don't want to be over-prescriptive, but happy to answer questions both here in the forums and at future Ask the Experts. Okay. Wild animals. Parker asks, what about wild animals crossing the road accidentally? Do we need to detect them as well?
I mean, I think that they'd be most likely to be confused as probably a pedestrian or cyclist. I don't know whether, Ho, if you have any experience with this one, although I actually do think it's a pretty similar question. So, if it were classified separately, that would be nice. But in the higher order, it'd be good if it were mistaken as a pedestrian. I feel like that would be
a false negative.
Okay.
False positive. That would be false positive.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. What is the expected action by our devices for detection of pedestrian on the road? Should it turn on an LED signal or audio buzz? So the idea is that you would either be able to send a packet out over the internet, or as Ho also said, he would like to have a relay contact, so a TTL signal. So for purposes of your implementation, you could just light up an LED and just say, oh, this LED is for pedestrians, this LED is for cyclists, and that's simple enough. But the concept that you should have is that it would need to communicate with either an internet based device and just say, yes, there are 4 pedestrians here now, or toggle a signal. So either one of those is fine. Any standard voltage to meet for the relay? For the purpose of this, no. Just having a TTL signal is sufficient. When we hopefully post-contest get to field some devices, we'll work out those details. But just having an electrical signal that goes high or low when something is detected is fine. Okay. It looks like we have cleared all the questions. So I'm pretty excited. Hopefully everybody who's here is got their thinking caps on. They're starting to think about the details. But certainly go to the forums. We've opened up, if you just go to forums.tinyml.org, you'll see the category about the tinyML challenge category. So that is available. And you can ask your questions there. Or if you have some general inquiries, you can ask Rosina, but please put the questions specifically to the implementation and things like that in the forums, so other people can chime in and people can learn collaboratively, and we can move this whole area forward. So I'd like to thank all the judges who were on today. I'd like to thank everybody who's joined us. And I would like to thank our tinyML strategic partners, which help take the tinyML Foundation to the next level. In specific, I'd like to thank our executive strategic partners, Edge Impulse, the leading development platform from Edge ML, Qualcomm AI Research, advancing AI research to make efficient AI ubiquitous, Sentient, making Edge AI a reality. Our platinum strategic partners, Renaissance, Atrios, our gold strategic partners, Analog Devices, Arduino, ARM, Initera, Microsoft, SenseML, ST Microelectronics, Synaptics, and our silver strategic partners, AIZip, Compass Marketing, Greenwave Technologies, Gravity, IBM, ImagineMob, Noda AI, NXP, OctoML, Polyan Technology, Kixo, Schneider Electric, Silicon Labs, and TDK InventSense. And for people who've asked, the slides and this YouTube recording will be posted later this week. So keep an eye out for that and look forward to having everybody participate, and definitely join us at forums.tinyml.org to ask your questions. So thank you again, and we wish everybody a great day.